Greetings, it's Professor Gibbs here. I thought I'd prepare a short video to help people understand how your cover letter and resumes are evaluated by the teaching assistants. Considering a resume is a document that is read in 10 seconds, yet it takes you hours to prepare and make perfect, I respect that you've put a lot of time into it. So over the next 5 minutes, this video will communicate how a teaching or a graduate assistant will evaluate your resume for this course. Before we start, let's talk about the purpose of having a resume built into a course. The course has sort of two main primary objectives for the resume assignments. One, and the very first one, is to provide you with something tangible upon completion of the course that you can use to help find employment upon graduation. The second reason is to test your ability to apply the principles discussed in the course and mirror the presentation style of an established and successful resume format. So we've had lots of classes and lectures where we've had guest speakers. We have had, you've got a workbook to work from, and you also have lectures and resume workshops that we've had. And in the course outline, it clearly states in it, any deviation from the resume and cover letter template or checklist will be penalized. Any errors in typing, formatting, or spelling and grammar will be penalized. So your Bible is the book that you were provided for free. That's part of the Business Career Hub. So what is a resume? A resume is a living document. It lives beyond your 4 years at Ryerson. You will update it whenever you want or whenever you need to have a job change to adapt it. It won't go away. It's also very subjective. As we know, your resume is read in seconds and not minutes. You never know who is reading your resume and what they're reading it for. Someone could be just looking at experience or education, and someone could have a rule that if they see a grammatical error, they walk away from it. For this reason, this course takes a hard stance on issues identified. Employer feedback. Many of you will have potentially gotten a job with this resume. Many of you may have gotten somebody to say, hey, this is a good resume. The challenge is, if you're sharing a resume with a consumer-based company, like somebody in HR or somebody who's hiring, they can never give you critical feedback on a resume. Why can't they give you critical feedback on a resume or give you critical feedback after? Well, for two primary reasons. Typically, let's just say it's a hotel or a restaurant, they are customer-facing organizations. In other words, you are their customer. So when you apply for work there and maybe you don't get a job there, they don't want to lose you as a customer, so they treat you respectfully and they won't be able to give you honest feedback. Plus, HR managers, after you apply for a job and maybe you don't get it, very rarely, if almost ever, you will get formal feedback. The evaluation of your work experience. While the employer is looking at what you have done and decides, whether to interview or not based on your experience on your resume, an academic TA or a professor evaluating your resume cannot critique the places you've worked or what you've done. They can stay focused on whether you followed the format and whether you have applied the principles taught in the course. And I guess lastly is, the resume, there is no more personal document and personal assignment in your 4 years of university than your resume. So if a student gets a poor grade on the resume, they foresee that as, you don't like my work experiences, or maybe you don't think I'm doing a good job, or maybe you don't think I'm a good person. Not at all. It is none of those. The only things that we assess when we're assessing your resume is your ability to do two things. One, show us that you've applied the principles taught in the course, and two, that you can adapt your resume, your current one that you may have, to a format or style that is specifically identified in the teaching materials. So, unlike an HR manager that reads your resume in seconds, a TA will read your resume about 3 to 5 minutes per page. And again, they are looking for the application of principles from the lectures and the workbook, and they're also looking for technical issues that could potentially look upon unfavorably by an employer. They can't determine fit, and they're not the hiring manager. So here's how it works. If a page of your resume, let's say your cover letter, is perfect, it only has 0 to 1 issues ever identified on it by the TA. But every time there's another issue that is identified on it, then the number of issues reflects the potential grade that you get on the cover letter or the resume. So essentially, the more issues they identify, the lower the grade that you will be receiving on your resume. We do this because it takes away any sort of bipartisan or any subjective perspectives of the resume. We are solely looking for, have you applied the principles? And if you haven't applied the principles, or you've got grammar errors or things like that, we move on and identify them. So here's an example with the cover letter. In your Business Career Hub book, you have two things in it. And what you'll find in the cover letter, there's a cover letter checklist that we use to look at, and there's also a sample of a resume from Elaine Adele. So let's look at a couple of things that we are looking for. First off, when the TA looks at the file, they're looking at, is it a PDF file or not? Silly, it may seem silly, but if it's not PDF, then when you submit that, potentially in Word, to an applicant tracking system, that applicant tracking system, if it's in a Word format, may change your formatting and style, which could cause problems. We're looking for you to have your name, a complete address, and cell phone number as the header. We're looking for a date, a complete address, and someone's name here. We're not looking for "Dear Hiring Manager." As discussed in class, we expect you to find the name of the person that you're applying that is the hiring manager. Then there's this opening paragraph. You know, how did you find out about the job? Why are you a good fit? Those are the types of things that should be in that paragraph. Your body paragraph, what do you know about the organization and your key achievements? Then there's your closing paragraph. You know, you appreciate consideration, you ask for action such as follow-up, and when you will call. Then there's this signature line. There's not a space, not a blank space, not a line, but a signature. Ideally, that signature's in color, and it's not in the same color as your resume, black text, but it's potentially in blue. And then constantly, we're always looking for potentially grammar or spelling. This document, this 3-page document of resume and cover letter, should have no grammatical mistakes. A good rule of thumb is read it more than once out loud and look for the most common issues such as parallel sentence issues. One of the most common issues that we find in student resumes and in reading them is what I call the easy to read sentence. If you look at this sentence here, it's an alright sentence, but it's not great. It's hard to read, it's difficult to understand. So let's try. Combined with my work experience, educational background, and an eagerness to continue my learning from industry professionals during daily operations of a luxury upscale hotel, I'm still trying to breathe, I would be an excellent candidate for the leadership development program. So that sentence is 3 lines, 38 words, and 259 characters. So here's a good rule of thumb. 3 rules for easy to read sentences. Avoid repeating the same word in the same sentence. Avoid sentences that are 2 lines or longer, and make sure you have parallel sentence structure and apply the magic power of 3. So let's look at what we see here. In this sentence, if we look at the rules, they repeat the words my, and plus an twice. I'm starting to be confused who's the subject. It's my work experience or it's my learning? Don't know what it is. It's a 3-line sentence, and it's also not parallel and has about 4 things that it's talking about all in the same sentence. For those of you that aren't, I recognize many of you may not be that familiar with parallel sentence structure, but it is something excellent to think about. Here is an explanation of parallel sentence structure. I found it on Google. You can find it on Google. But parallelism means that each item in a list or comparison follows the same grammatical patterns, right? Especially when you're listing and comparing and contrasting items and ideas. So, in example 1 above, you can see that the verbs all finish with the ing except for the word ride. To make this parallel, your word forms must all be the same. So you add the ing onto riding to get riding. In example 2, you have to adapt in a detailed manner, the 3rd item, because it is 3 words, whereas everything else in the list is 1. So you modify the word to have thoroughly, to have it replaced with thoroughly, and it then makes it parallel. Let's look at this sentence that we have here. I broke it down further to understand it, and I thought I would visually break it down where I said combined with my, and then I broke down the list. This is essentially what you're saying. It's almost, think of your list as in bullet points. Does this look like something that would look good from a presentation perspective in bullet points? You know, two words, multiple words, and upper upscale hotel, a totally different type of adjective or verb at the beginning. I would be an excellent candidate for the leadership development program. So you need to start to think in list sentences and how you simplify this. So how do I simplify this sentence? Here is what we've done. I've rewritten that sentence to be combined with my work experience, educational background, and passion for Fairmont hotels. I would be an excellent candidate for the leadership development program. We've taken a hard-to-read 3-line sentence that wouldn't fit in a tweet to a 2-line sentence with 22 words and just barely over a tweet. So we've made that sentence a lot easier to read. Now, I'd like to take you to resume evaluation. Remember, they look at this in 10 seconds, and the TA will spend 3 to 5 minutes on it, looking for issues, essentially, potentially to highlight for you. Here, if you're looking for guidance on your resume, again, go to the Business Career Hub. They have a checklist, and they have a sample resume. If we look at Lane Adele's resume as an example, it has a resume, it has a header, very similar to your cover page. It's got Lane Adele, a line, and it's got your address there. It has your profile. The profile statement should be about 3 to 5 lines and clearly state what you want to do, what field you are in, what type of position you're seeking. This is where you can really differentiate yourself. The next section is your summary of qualifications in here. Try to match your qualifications as closely as possible to the job posting. Mirror keywords and things from the job posting where possible. Now that we're at the education stage, you will have a look at the format. You can easily see the use of bold and all caps to make the education stand out, and also the use of italics. This is a format that is easily read. What is also very important to see is the right alignment of the date. If you see here, and right alignment of the date. This is critical in all resumes. When somebody's reading your resume and they're trying to see your job history, you need to make it easy for them to find. You don't want to have that buried in the text in the middle. That's the date format. Then you have this experience header. Your heading for experiences is similar to your headings for education. You'll see the experience header and what they've got. You'll also see the spacing is somewhat consistent on the resume. Single space throughout, with the exception of the end of a section, it adds a return. That's the front page. Now if we go to the back page, you'll see the headings of the back is a little bit different. It's just got your name, it says page 2, and it says your phone number and your email address. This is where a lot of you will have your work experience. The work experience format, very similarly, follows the same format. All caps for the title of the title of the organization. The date is right aligned. The job you did is in bold, and location and things like that are there. And then you've got your we like to call them star statements about what you did. This is the biggest area where students have a challenge. I'm going to go through in detail the 2 main rules that we have for star statements. One is they need to start with a verb, either active or passive, depending upon whether you're in the job or you're not in the job anymore. And ideally, you have at least some measure or quantitative element to give the reader context of the place that you worked and the operation. Here, let's have a look at this example. Here is a resume star statement before. This is a student. I've modified some things from a teachable point of view. I modified the name of the organization and the dates so that you could not maybe identify that student. This is a student that actually works as a supervisor or a manager while they're going to school. Awesome experience. The skills they've got and what they've developed, they are completely employable, and people would be crazy not to hire this student. But if I'm looking at her resume, she or he doesn't do a good job of applying the principles. Let's look at the words here. This job no longer works in this job. Yet all of the verbs that start, right, are in present tense. Also, things like responsible for payroll. That is not a verb. Responsible is a descriptive word. It's not a verb. Efficiently, not a verb. Respond to is a verb. Manage is a verb. So I rewrote this. And I took some liberties, because if I was a supervisor of a restaurant like this, I'm going to know certain things. So, supervised a team of 15 waitstaff for a busy 300-seat restaurant that generated over $3 million per year. Look at the measurement. Look at the precision. If I read that, wow, that's a significant operation. Trained all new waitstaff on the use of Micros POS system and guest payment. I forecasted monthly demand and scheduled all front of house staff, maintaining a 20% labor cost. Responded to all in-person and online customer complaints, improving TripAdvisor star rating by 20%. Which one's better, the old style or the new? Picture you don't know this person. Picture you are not even from Pickering. Picture you are from Vancouver and you're reading this resume. This format, I have no clue what a two-cast grill is. I don't even know what size of operation is. This format, I know what size of operation is. It has context and it's much better written. Finally, I just want to wish you good luck. If you're looking for further help, don't hesitate to share your resume with your classmates. Get critical of each other. Help each other. Coach them through it. Looking for more guidance? Look at your book. If you really need some more guidance, come see me during office hours. I'm more than willing to help you improve your resume. Other than that, good luck, and I look forward to reading your resumes in the near future.